All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to District 6330's very first public image and social media webinar. My name is Kirk Langford. I am the district chair of the Public Image and Social Media Committee, and so I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me and learn a little bit more about public image and social media with Rotary. So a couple of, I guess, ground rules or housekeeping items before we get started. The first is that I currently have everybody muted. It's just because if I don't mute you, we often get a lot of echo and whatnot, and it can become quite difficult to hear. So just for the sake of quality, audio quality, I have muted everyone. If you have a question at any time throughout the webinar, there's a couple of ways that you can, there's two ways that you can share that with me. If it's at the end of the webinar, I've built in some time for questions, hopefully about 5 or 6 minutes for questions, and you can simply unmute yourself and just say, I'm this person from this club, and I have a quick question about X, Y, or Z. The other way that you can submit questions, and you can do this at any time throughout the webinar because it's not going to interrupt anything, is to do it through the chat function. That's part of the GoToMeeting control panel. So when you boot it up, join the GoToMeeting, a control panel came up, and one of the buttons there is a chat button. And you can simply type in your questions there. You can either type them to the whole audience if you don't mind everybody seeing them. If for whatever reason you want it to be just to me, you can certainly select my name from the list and send it just to me. And I will get to those questions probably at the end of the webinar. It can be sometimes difficult to be keeping tabs on what's happening in terms of questions I'm receiving as well as giving the webinar. So I'll probably wait until the end unless I can catch one and it's particularly relevant to what we're talking about at the time. Okay. Another note about this webinar specifically, the introduction to My Rotary, is that this webinar is just an overview. For those of you who are present at the District 6330's district conference and the District 6330's PETS or training conference, you'll probably remember that I mentioned we're going to do some webinars that are very much step-by-step, sort of slowed down, really showing you how to do everything, and other ones will be higher level to just introduce you to certain concepts or to certain functions, and this is going to be one of the latter. We're going to talk sort of in broad terms about what My Rotary offers, but unfortunately we only have about half an hour and I want to respect everybody's time and really just take half an hour, so we won't be able to talk about each and every piece of My Rotary in detail. But as you'll see, we are going to have some other webinars that will go of My Rotary. Okay, so let's get started then. All right, so the very first thing you need to know is you have to be able to get to My Rotary and log in. So getting to My Rotary, you simply go to rotary.org and you click right where the red arrow is, My Rotary. Simple as that. Now, what you may notice is that if your browser window isn't open very large, or if you're on a smartphone or an iPad, when you go to rotary.org, you might not see My Rotary where I just showed you on that previous screen. So it might not appear here. Instead, what you might see is something that looks a little bit more like this. And that's simply because they have optimized it for the screen size. And so what the system knows is that on a smaller screen, shrink things, don't try to fit everything into the same screen. So instead, if you log in, or sorry, if you go to rotary.org and it looks like this, what you need to do is first click the menu button, and then you will see this page, okay? And you will be able to find the My Rotary button. You can click there, and it's the same place that it'll take you if you clicked My Rotary in the first screen. Okay? So then the next step is if you're signing in for the first time, if you haven't created an account before, then you're going to need to click either register up here at the top right corner, or you can click register for an account in the bottom here. Both take you to the same place, so it doesn't matter which one you click. So again, either register in the top or register right here, it doesn't matter. When you do that, you will be taken to an account registration page where it's going to ask you to fill in your first name, your last name, and assign an email address and ask you whether or not you're older than 18. You'll need to complete this form and click continue. Now what's going to happen is Rotary's system is going to try to locate your membership in their database because, as many of you know, through Club Runner or other club management software, your data is already uploaded to Rotary International's database. And so it will have, or it should have, your name and information in there. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the case for Rotaractors. So for Rotaractors, don't be surprised if you put in your information here and it just allows you to continue and say creating your account. But for those who are Rotarians, it may say it's going to try to look for your membership in their database, and it wants to link that membership that it contains to your to the account that you are creating, so that there's not duplication. So then it's going to ask you to do that. You click continue and it'll find it, and then it'll ask you to fill out some more information, some other contact information that you might not potentially have already filled out through Club Runner, and some other questions as well. So you'll just complete the steps. You keep clicking continue, and then it'll say, your account has been created. All right. Now, if you've already created an account, so you have an existing My Rotary account, you simply go to where we talked about, myrotary.org. Then you click on rotary.org. Then you click on My Rotary. And then as you can see here, right beside the register button that we just talked about, there's a sign in button. So you're going to click the sign in button. Alternatively, you can also click this button here. It's the same thing. Whether you click there or there, it's going to take you to the same place. So you don't have to worry about choosing one or the other. Just pick one. Okay. Once you've done that, a little window pops up, or a pop-up menu pops up that's going to ask you to put in the sign-in email that you used to create the account, as well as your password. If you can't remember your sign-in email or your password, you can use the forgot password function, and it's going to ask you to enter a sign-in email, and it's going to be able to recognize whether or not that email address is already in the database. So if you're someone who has multiple email addresses and you think, oh gosh, I can't remember whether I used my personal address to create my account or my work address, if you enter one of the addresses and it's not in their database, it's going to come back saying, hey, we don't have this account in our database. And that's how you're going to know, okay, it must be the other address. And then the forgot password function also obviously allows you to enter a new password if you've forgotten it. It's going to send you an email to the address that you have on file and that you enter in, and then it's going to ask you to check that email, and through a link in that email, you're going to be able to reset your password. I see this with a lot of people because they say, oh my gosh, I created the account when I first became a Rotarian, or maybe a couple years ago, and it's been a long time since I've signed in, so I'm not sure what my password is. So certainly try the passwords that you think it might be, but if you're really struggling and it keeps coming back saying incorrect password or email combination, use that forgot password function to help you log in and not get frustrated. And then when you're ready, simply click sign in, and away you go. And then once you're logged in, here we are. We're here right on the home page of My Rotary. And what we're going to focus on for the rest of the webinar is really what is available under each one of these tabs, because these tabs are the principal way to navigate through the My Rotary site. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to switch out of Google Slides here and jump over to the actual My Rotary page. Okay, so I'll make this full screen. Just give me one moment there. There we go. So now that's a full screen, so you can all see that. And what I want to mention is the couple primary things that appear on each page that are going to be helpful to you, and then talk about specifics of certain pages and certain features and functions. Just a reminder that if you'd like to enter any questions or comments or concerns, please do so using the chat in the GoToMeeting control panel as we go along. So a couple things I want to highlight. You've got the Club Finder right here. Now the Club Finder is exactly that. It's going to help you find any registered Rotary Club in the world. So I can click that at any time. Okay, and what I'm going to find now, I'm loading it in a separate tab just so that it doesn't take me away from here. But typically, it would just load in the same window that it just was in. And I come here, and sure enough, I can look for any club in the world. So I could enter, for example, London. Okay, I choose London, I click search, and it is a little bit of a slow website, I will say that, so do be patient. You'll notice here I can see that it tells me waiting for my.rotary.org, so do be patient, it doesn't move very fast. And then sure enough, here I have the Rotary Club of London, the London North, London South, London Lambeth, so on and so forth. So a great tool for a club locator if you're going to be traveling or what have you, a great way to be able to find different clubs around the world. And so that's in each one of the windows, no matter where you go on this My Rotary site, that's going to be at the top. The other piece that's a little bit broader in terms of search capabilities is this search bar, okay? Now I can type anything into there. I can type the name of a document I'm looking for. I could even type potentially the name of a club I'm looking for. And what you're going to find is it's going to actually take us back to a very similar looking page, okay? But it's going to search across everything it has. So let's type in, you can see I did here earlier, I typed in Stratford. So when I click Stratford and I hit enter, and of course we have to wait a moment. Patience is a virtue here with the Rotary website. And you can see that it provides me with a number of different resources where Stratford has been included. So it starts by, as you can see now, it says search results, and it started with all. Now, if I want to look for pages, so pages on the My Rotary website that have the term Stratford in it, I click pages, simply because all gives you a fair bit of data sometimes. And so deciding, do I want a page? Is it a document I'm looking for? Is it a specific person or club? Okay, so I can click pages and that's just loading. And what we'll find, now I can see that there is a page on the Rotary website that does mention Stratford, and it's in the context of the Rotary International Convention in Toronto. And then I can do the same with documents. So are there any documents that mention Stratford? Now, Stratford might be a strange term to look for in a document, but if I were looking for a document about leading the club as president, or a document for treasurers to follow, or something about invoicing, then that would make a lot of sense for me to type in invoicing, click documents, and see what comes up. But you can see here, there are some documents that actually do have Stratford mentioned in them. So kudos to Stratford for that. And then, of course, the club directory that we just looked at. And then the official directory, which is, Rotary head office, Rotary International's list of basically kind of the bigwigs and the important people. And then, of course, people is the next tab. And people is actually the ability to search for members. So any member that's in my Rotary, you can search for them. So when I, for example, search for myself, and I click search, I type in my name, click search. Now, keep in mind, you do have to have a My Rotary account set up. So if you haven't set up your account yet, even though you're a Rotarian, and even though you might have an account in Club Runner with your club or your district, you won't necessarily show up here. So sure enough, I typed in Kirk Langford and my profile came up. Okay, I'm going to use another member from my club just as an example. So I type in Danielle Bork. And after a moment, there we go. Danielle Bork comes up from the Rotary Club of London. Okay, so any member that has a My Rotary account can show up here. So this is one of the great benefits of creating a My Rotary account, is that you're really connecting yourself to, those 1.2 million members around the world. And the more of us who have accounts, the more robust and the more useful the My Rotary database and the My Rotary system can become. So that's the search bar and the club finder that we've talked about. Another thing I want to mention now that I'm going to dive into these bars here is what you will find, and it confuses some members and other people really like it, is that there's a lot of repetition and a lot of overlap in this system. So what I mean by that is I'm going to, when I hover my mouse over any one of these tabs, okay, so I can hover, again, I'm not clicking, I'm just hovering it over. When I hover it over Exchange Ideas, I see a fair number of options. I see the same thing under Take Action. I see a number of different options, Learning and Reference, Manage, so on and so forth. What you're going to notice is that a lot of these terms or a lot of these titles are repeated. And it can certainly be confusing because you're asking yourself, okay, well, I see, for example, I see Rotary Club Central here. So under Manage, I see Rotary Club Central. Okay, great. And then I come under Member Center, and I also see Rotary Club Central listed here. And of course, the first question I ask myself is, are those the same link? Are they going to take me to the same place? Or is the Rotary Club Central under Manage different than the Rotary Club Central under Member Center? And I know it's caused a fair bit of confusion in the past. And I'm here to tell you the confusion can be done away with, because if the link has the same name, so for example, Brand Center and Brand Center, it actually takes you to the exact same place. So if I click this link, or if I click this link, and I'm actually just going to show you by opening those in new tabs, and I go to another one and I see again Brand Center, okay, I'm going to show you that it actually takes you to the same place. And again, we have a fourth Brand Center tab. Now watch what happens when I open each of the different tabs. Here I see Welcome to the Brand Center. Here, Welcome to the Brand Center. Welcome to the Brand Center, and 4 out of 4, Welcome to the Brand Center. So it can seem confusing and it can seem somewhat frustrating because you're saying, well, why did they do so much repetition? Well, they did that to try to make it easy to get to where you want to be. So instead of thinking, oh, how do I get to the Brand Center? I remember there was that one link to get there, but I can't seem to find it. Instead of struggling with that frustration, you can find the Brand Center, for example, from a number of areas. So they're trying to make it easier to navigate. So don't be afraid of seeing the same name and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to click it from the same place every time. If you see Brand Center and you are trying to get to the Brand Center, clicking on it will get you there. You don't have to worry about where you clicked it from. And so you'll see a lot of overlap and a lot of repetition throughout My Rotary. And again, they've done that to try to make this easier, not harder, even though it can certainly sometimes seem as though they're making it harder. Okay, so that's the basic thing there. Another thing I want to mention is clicking some of these links. Most of these links will keep you within my Rotary. Will keep you within that site, will keep you where you want to be, where you currently are. Some of them actually take you out of my Rotary and into the Rotary public or the front end website. And so that can be a little bit confusing because sometimes you'll click a link. So for example, I click membership here. And what I'm going to find is when I load the membership one, okay, sorry, that's a wrong example. Let me look for another one here. I think this might be a good one. There we go. So when I click on International Convention and I go to the page, you'll notice it doesn't look like my Rotary anymore. I'm not here where I can see these bars, where I can see these tabs and get back to where I need to be. I'm on the International Convention website, riconvention.org. Now that can be a little bit confusing. It can throw you off because you can think, okay, I was where I wanted to be and now suddenly I need to get back and I'm not there. So when that happens, all you have to do, okay, so I click on, for example, that International Convention page. Now this loaded in a different tab, but if it didn't, all I would have to do is click the back button. And by clicking the back button, it would take me to where I want to go. So if it doesn't open in a new tab, just click the back button. It will take you back to my Rotary, and here we are again. Okay. Now, one other quick thing, I want to just show you what it looks like, the My Rotary homepage, because I've been talking a lot about these tabs and the benefit of these tabs, but there is also just the main front page. And there you can see a number of features. There's the Rotary Spotlight, there's what's new, there's a snapshot of my club specifically, so it's got information specific to my club, some announcements, and so on and so forth. You can certainly navigate again from this page. You don't necessarily have to use these tabs. These tabs have more data than what this has. These are sort of a dashboard or a highlight for you. But again, you can see I could also get to the Brand Center from here, from the online tools section. So lots of repetition and overlap, but to try to make it easier for you as opposed to harder. Okay, now let's go through each of these tabs again very quickly. I don't want to go over time, and so I'm going to do this quite quickly, but I do want to highlight a couple of places or pages that I think will be of a lot of use to you. And then for some of them, we're going to have a separate webinar for it, like I mentioned, so I'm not going to touch base on them much. I'm just going to say, hey, check this out in your spare time, and while you're waiting for the specific webinar to happen. So the first tab is Exchange Ideas. So you find this really great thing called My Groups that are all discussion groups, similar to Rotarian action groups or even Rotarian interest groups. It's sort of like a mix of those two, a cool intersection. So I'm not part of any groups right now, okay, but I could go to Find a Group, okay? And when I do that, it's gonna show me potential groups that I could join. And there are lots and lots and lots. There's as many groups as there are Rotarian action groups or Rotarian interest groups. So for example, Rotary Business Connect, the Rotary Friendship Exchange Group, Interact Chair. So there's all sorts. So you can search for pretty much anything. And as you can see by the number of pages, you're going to get a lot of results. So you can then pick the groups that either the one group that applies to you most, or you can join multiple groups that you think apply to you. And it really helps you, opens you into the wider world of Rotary. There's even ones that aren't in English. So clubs from around the world are doing their groups in different language, which is fantastic as well. So lots of options there. If you're looking for a specific group and you can't find one, you can create your own group. You could start a group. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a Rotarian interest group that's about magicians and Rotary. So if you go, wow, I'd really like there to be a group on my Rotary for that, you could start that group yourself. But a really great tool for connecting and networking is the My Groups function. So do check that out in a little bit more detail. You join the group and then people simply post in the group. It's very much like a forum, and you can keep up to what's going on in that group that way. So this is all about My Groups. Then you have events, not too exciting. A lot of the pages in here you'll find are just information-based pages as opposed to sort of systems or specific resources. So if I click the International Convention like I already did, it's just going to take me to the convention page. If I click the International Assembly page, it's just going to take me to the assembly page that tells me more about it, and so on and so forth. So lots of information pages. Under Club Connections, it's going to give me different resources for each one of these clubs. So clubs or resources for Rotary clubs, resources for Rotaract clubs. And a lot of these resources are documents that you've probably seen. For example, under the Rotary Club, a lot of the documents are the Lead Your Club documents or membership guide, so on and so forth. So a lot of the stuff you'll look and go, oh, okay, I've seen this. This isn't brand new. This is just the online PDF version of that same thing that maybe I've seen printed or seen in passing around my club. So lots of different resources there. Next, you've got the Take Action tab. The very first part of the Take Action tab is all about giving and donations. So, of course, there's ways to give. We can talk about planned giving, donor recognition, or the ability to donate right there, which is great. Developing projects. There's a few really useful things here. There's the life cycle of a project, again, an information page. There's Rotary Club Central. Now, I'm not going to talk much about Rotary Club Central out of the interest of time because we're going to do a separate webinar on it because it has a lot to offer. But I want to jump down to this one here, Rotary Showcase, and show you what that looks like because it's a great page. It's a very useful page, and it's a cool database for showcasing different Rotary projects. So if you have a project that you think other clubs might want to implement and therefore might want some information about, you do it through the Rotary Showcase. So it's just going to take a moment to load. And as a side note, while this is loading, many of you have asked, why do I have to show why do I have to talk about volunteer hours? Why do I have to number the, give these numbers, amount we've raised, and number of dollars that goes into everything? That's so much work. Well, when I come to the showcase and I scroll to the bottom, it shows based on the projects that have been input, I can see that 69 million volunteer hours have been contributed, 12 million volunteers, 819 million in cash contributions, and 363 million in kind. So you can see how Rotary is using that information. It's trying to say, hey, look at all of the good work that we're doing around the world. And they're calling it their impact tracker. So it can be a little bit tedious. I understand it's frustrating to think, how do I calculate the time for a project or the number of volunteers? But try, do your best for it because it's going to do great things when Rotary is able to advertise things like, hey, we donated or contributed, 100 million volunteer hours, be part of Rotary, okay? So what I can see here is different projects. And what they've done is when I click on one, so for example, I see this showcase highlight and I want to click and learn more about it. It tells me it was in Uganda and it was part of maternity and child health. I click on that link. And of course, I can add my own projects as well, but probably start by looking at some of the projects that have been entered to get an idea of what it tells you. You can see the project location, the dates, the category, what funding looked like, the contacts for that, as well as partners, and then project photos and highlights. So it's a great way to network and share the successive projects you've had. So if you're looking for inspiration for your own club and you want to say, hey, I could use an international project or a local project, you can certainly come here and look for it. If you're looking to share information about projects your club has done that you want to share with the Rotary world, a great way is to add your own project. So this showcase has a lot of potential to be an extremely useful tool for us to share that wealth of knowledge that we have from trial and error and learning what we've done through projects and whatnot. Okay. So I really wanted to showcase that or highlight the showcase, no pun intended, because I think it's a great tool. Then you've got the Grant Center, which is everything to do with grants. You'll also notice that if I go under Rotary Foundation, you'll see information about grants as well. Same thing. Again, as long as I'm seeing it in that spot, it's the same thing. And then empowering leaders. So this is all about, mostly about youth service, but also about just getting other people engaged and involved in Rotary. So Rotaract, sponsoring an Interact Club, a RILA event, a scholarship or exchange, so on and so forth. So again, informational pages that are going to provide you with lots and lots of resources and information. Next, we have learning and reference. So here we've got lots of different learning by role versus learning by topic. So if you're the membership chair in your club, go ahead and click on that membership tab. It's going to give you great information and resources about that specific committee or that specific topic. Or you could learn by a role. So I'm a new member. I need to kind of get my feet wet a little bit more. I could click on that. You can also do it by club role within the club, president, treasurer, secretary, so on and so forth. About Rotary is the higher level structure, I would say. Of course, there's more detailed things like financials and whatnot, but you've got the official directory, you've got our higher up structure and our priorities coming from the top, as well as governance documents, so on and so forth. Probably not something you're going to visit extremely often, but still a good resource to have, and it makes sense being under the Learning and Reference tab. Next, you've got the Document Center, which I'd like to show you, and then the Learning Center and Webinar Center. I want to show you, but we don't have time today, so I'm going to show you at a different webinar, but two really great tools for continued and improved training for your club and for your district and just for your individual members. So I'm going to show you what the Document Center looks like. So this is pretty much any document that has been uploaded to My Rotary on any of these pages that we've looked at and that we're going to look at. You can find it here. So if I'm looking for something in reference to being president of my club, I type in the word president. Right now I've got it at all categories, but I could certainly select a specific category if I want, and I click search. Okay. And sure enough, really almost any document that comes up with something relative to president is going to appear here. Now I can see there's 329 results. So my suggestion when you're using this search function within the documents directory is to try to be specific as you can. Now, if you're too specific, it'll say, showing 0 results. It's not going to return any results. So then broaden your search a little bit. So it's a little bit of trial and error depending on what you're looking for and how quickly you're going to find it. All right. So that's again learning and reference. We move over to manage, and under manage, you've got a lot of club and district administration tools, which are fantastic. There's a lot of good stuff there. We'll do a separate webinar on club and district administration because again, lots of information as well as reports. We'll probably tie that into the Rotary Club Central webinar because there is a lot of overlap there and it makes sense to do those together. The community marketplace, so you can look at other club management systems. I know most of us are familiar with Club Runner, but there are others, so you can look at different providers, as well as the official Rotary apps. Again, an information page that just tells you what they are and that you can download them. The Brand Center, so this is a breakdown of what you would see on the Brand Center, our story, our guidelines, our logos, so on and so forth. And then products and services, so shoprotary.org, as well as other licensed vendors, the Rotary Global Rewards Project, program, which you may have heard of, and some other information. Again, I apologize for having to go through this so fast, but we really want to keep it to half an hour. So the Rotary Foundation, you've got lots of information about grants as you would expect to find in a Rotary Foundation tab, as well as ways to contribute, which is the exact same as what we saw under Take Action. So ways to give, planned giving, and donor recognition. Sure enough, I come here, ways to give, planned giving, donor recognition, exact same tabs. And then some more information about the foundation as well as some reports that you might find relevant. Next, we've got news and media, so Office of the President, so a whole bunch of media and news from Barry Rassin or whoever the current president happens to be at the time, as well as information about the Rotarian and other regional magazines. So obviously, if you're in Canada, you get the Rotarian Canada insert as well. And then newsletters, Rotary Voices blog, and Rotary Leader. Now, one thing I will say, I was looking at the news and features and the announcements tab, and it's very similar to the, these two are very similar. So you'll see a lot of the same overlap in announcements and news and features. The calendar is a good resource. It lists what each of the themes are for the months, as well as high level, so Rotary International level events. So for example, the convention, the International Assembly, so on and so forth. So you can see here, it tells you that August is membership and new club development month. September is basic education and literacy month, etc., etc. Okay, October 24th, World Polio Day. So it's a good check-in if you're if you're trying to make sure your club is on track and you're trying to plan ahead, great spot to come and look. Okay. Back we go, and under, again, news and media, you've got the Brand Center. Again, we'll talk more about that in a separate one, as well as Rotary images and media. So lots and lots of images from across the Rotary world that you can download and use in your social media or across your different media. And last but not least is the Member Center. So the Member Center is really where I would say is the bulk of the tools that are offered in my Rotary. So I mentioned before, a lot of these pages are informational pages or sort of resource pages in the sense of PDFs and whatnot that you can download. Here you'll see a lot more sort of the tools that are available. So some stuff you've already seen, and by this point you really start to understand the repetition. We've already seen Rotary Global Rewards, we've already seen Rotary Club Central tabs, the Brand Center, the Showcase, but it really brings a lot of that together as a member, okay? You've also got some other resources and reference. And so the last thing I want to talk about before we look to questions is this right here, the profile and account settings. So when I click on that, it's going to take me to a page where I can update my account. Now, you'll see here, it's got my profile photo, and I can add lots of information about myself. I can even, put in my credit card information if I want to have a recurring donation. But what it's going to do is it's going to take a moment to retrieve the latest information from your system. And voila, here we go. So all my contact information is here, and I can make sure that that's all correct and up to date. It's got my Rotary resume. So in my case, for example, who have I sponsored in the past, any foundation recognition, my club name and district, and then my occupation and program. So in my case, I was a past Rotaractor, a past Interactor, and exchange student. So it's got that listed there as well. I can even include more. I can talk about different skills and interests. And this is really handy. When I talked about being able to search the database for members, if you're looking for specific members with specific skills to try to connect with, great way to do that is through that. And then, of course, again, I can add lots more information. The more information you add, obviously, the more information is available, but also the more information is going to help connect you to other Rotarians who might be looking for someone with your skills or your interests for a project or for networking purposes. So it does, I know a lot of people are information wary and they don't like to provide a lot of information online. That's completely up to you how much you provide. Just know that the more information you provide, the better people can connect with you. Okay? And so that's really how you update your profile. Now, the last thing I want to show you, there is also a message center, so people can actually message you through My Rotary. Okay, so if they find you on there and they want to send you a message about a project, they say, hey, you're from London, Ontario, we'd love to come visit in a friendship exchange. I can get that message through my messages tab. And it's just loading right now. Sorry for the delay here. Just taking a moment. In the meantime, we are at 7:31, so if there are any questions, if you don't mind typing them now, just so that I can quickly answer them, that'd be great. And you can see here, no current messages. I'm not that popular today, sorry. But I would see those messages there and I can respond to them, just like a typical email inbox. Last thing I want to show you is the account settings. So we talked, that's the profile side is what I showed you in a moment ago. That's more the front end, your picture, your information. This is the account settings, so particular to your account. So changing your password, changing email preferences, being able to change the location and language, so on and so forth. So that's the more back end stuff that you can change. Okay. So lots of great features here, lots to check out. We could spend 8 hours on this on a webinar about My Rotary and still not see it all, but hopefully you've gotten a good overview and haven't found this, too much too quickly. And so before I answer the questions, I just want to finish off with two slides. Suggestions for upcoming webinars that we're looking at. So August is going to be all about creating your club's public image. Then in September, that will be where we talk about using the Rotary Brand Center and imaging. And then we're going to actually do a social media series talking about using Facebook pages to Instagram or not to Instagram. So, should my club have an Instagram account? Should my club have a Twitter account? Does it make sense for my club? We'll discuss those questions. And then December is hashtags, sharing and commenting. Oh my. So getting the next level of really engaging on social media and doing it successfully. Then January so far, we've got using videos and images from the Rotary Foundation and Rotary International. Okay, so there will be other topics. I know I mentioned to you some of them that will be coming up, but I just haven't put those in yet. But this is what we've got planned up to January. So stay tuned to the District 6330 Facebook page, as well as District Governor Jim's video updates for dates, times, and more, because those haven't been set in stone yet. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly go to questions, and I do apologize for going over time, but hopefully we can get through these in 2 or 3 minutes and have you on your way. Okay, so we have a question here. I've noticed with the Stratford Rotaract Club, we have the original Club Runner website. A bunch of numbers and letters, not a very user-friendly website. And I've been seeing some newer Rotaract clubs and other Rotary clubs with .org websites. So what the person is saying here is, londonrotary.org or stratfordrotary.org, and it has a newer, fresher look. Do you think this is something we should look into, and is it worth it? This is more of a public image question, but my answer to you is an absolute yes. The easier you can make it for people to find your website, and whether it's something as small as simply the URLs, so the link that they use to get to your website, and then also the cleanliness. So when they log onto the website, does it look sleek and modern and cool? Think Facebook, think Starbucks website, think the Apple website. Is it modern? Is it minimalist? If it has those qualities, people are going to flock to it. If it looks busy, if it looks crowded, if the information is out of date, if it's hard to update, people are not going to visit it and they're not going to stay on it very long. First impressions on a website are very similar to first impressions in person in that you don't have much time to make a good one. So the better that first impression is, the longer someone's likely to stay on your website and be more engaged. So absolutely, the simpler you can make the website and then the cleaner you can make it, the better. We have another question here. Is there a way to set up notifications so you don't miss messages sent through My Rotary? Jim, that's a good question, and I don't have the answer for you. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to write that down because I don't know. I would assume that there's an ability to set up a notification so you get an actual email in your inbox, in your normal email inbox saying, hey, you've received a message, but I can't confirm that, so I will test that out, and I will let you know. Okay. 2 more things. So post-webinar feedback survey. I'll be sending all of you a survey about this webinar. Please take a moment to fill it out because it's really going to help us. That feedback will be valuable for us in future webinars. It's going to ask you, what did you think of the length of the webinar? What did you think of the amount of detail? What other topics would you like to see? So on and so forth. So please do take a minute. I'll be sending that out either tonight or tomorrow. Take a few moments to fill it out. That'll really help us. And so I don't see any other questions. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules. I know it's a summer night. I know some places it's raining, like here in London, but other places it might be beautiful. So I appreciate that you took the time to join me. Hopefully you found it helpful and useful. Hopefully it's going to help you engage your Rotary Club and have a better public image and really start to become friends, with my Rotary, because I can understand that it's overwhelming, but it's also got so much great information and so many good tools that we could be using to enhance our clubs. So I will leave you with that. Continue to be the inspiration and have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much, everyone.